I have a problem with people putting stipulations on their love. And because I like you more, you get more. You are both my children. And so whether I agree with your choices in life or not, I love you unconditionally. I like you for different reasons.
Hold on. No, that's not the same. You're conflating my love for them and saying,
you don't get to choose how they live their life. You don't get to choose that. You don't get to choose. You can't say,
it's my money.
I'm going to give you more. And because you want to buy a Lamborghini, I'm giving you less.
Welcome to another episode of I Take Your Point podcast. I am John Dunson, joined by someone who looks like they're going to the beach today, my lovely co-host, Miss Len. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of I Take Your Point. We are appreciative of all the support that you showed us over the course of the last couple months. Today, we're talking about something that I think is going to be of importance to a lot of us, and it's called the silver tsunami. You know, economists are salivating over the fact that we're going to have a lot of the baby boomers that are retiring in a couple of years. Miss Lynn, I know you're not at that age yet, but during the retiring of the baby boomers, we're going to have a lot of assets that are going to either be transferred or, in some cases, unfortunately, lost because of the human history that's been involved with a lot of the transfer of wealth, specifically with the African-American community. But here's the uncomfortable truth that we need to be talking about. For a lot of us, again, this is not a transfer of wealth. In some ways, it's an eviction. For the Black family, we've seen over the course of years, with respect to the loss of a loved one, a lot of times we don't have a steward that's in place to be able to navigate us through that ownership. And so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into what that looks like, and more importantly, what things we need to put in place to make certain we're not leaving our loved ones out to dry with respect to the assets that we may have and the equity and stakes that we may have, whether it's in business or whether it's in real estate and things of that sort. But before we get into that, Ms. Lynn, how was your week?
It was good. I did a lot of pre-spring cleaning, so decluttering, getting things out of my closet, which is always a journey, and a expression in mental health. Why do I have this stuff? I have so many clothes. But it's good. Once it's done, you walk in, you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh my God, I can walk through here. So I did a lot of that. And other than that, it was raining yesterday, so posted up, watched Tyler Perry's new movie, which is always good for a laugh. And other than that, I'm good.
Well, good. Well, it's raining here in Atlanta, and so it's a wonderful day to just relax and try to get my headspace together before the week that's coming up. But let's dive into what it is that has been on my mind and in the news with respect to the transfer of wealth. But thank you guys, and we will see you in the comment. So the silver tsunami is what we're talking about. Are you familiar with, I know you're in California and you spent a lot of time at the beach, and as a part of you spending some time at the beach working on your tan so you can look like me. No. Let me back that up. You don't like the sun.
The sun.
So yeah. So
I don't look like you.
So are you familiar with Santa Monica and the history of Santa Monica?
I am familiar with Santa Monica, not so much the history. Obviously, it's been in the news in the last couple of years, but when I lived there, I had no idea about any of that.
Yes. Interesting thing about Santa Monica, and my understanding, a story came out in 2021, I believe it was, where the city of Santa Monica had put out an all hands call back to individuals who had either moved away from the city to move back to either reclaim or get a portion of what it is that the city was doing to rectify some wrongs that were done back in the 30s through 40s with respect to the construction of Highway 10, as well as some other things that were happening, we saw happening in other parts of the United States. But specifically in Santa Monica, you think of Santa Monica today, you think of wealthy homes, you think of white ownership, but Santa Monica used to be a predominantly Black neighborhood. And what happened was the local government there enacted these laws that mandated or considered the homes or the property of the people of color as blight. And so because they were tagged as blight or an eyesore, those individuals were either forced to sell or removed from their homes. And that land that was in some way stolen from them was then resold to individuals that did not look like them. What say you about something?
I think that it's brilliant if I worked for the state and I was on that other side, because everything that they did was legal. All of it was legal. It was using that policy to extract the wealth and the ownership from Black families, but it was all legal. The challenge that many of those homeowners had was that they were uninformed of what they could do, right? So I think it was eminent domain. Is that what they used?
Yes.
And right, it's legal, but there are things that families can do to protect wealth. Like, we always know that the first offer is not the final offer. And so, just making sure that communities come together and it's not one-to-one, it's many-to-one. So if you're going to bring your lawyers, then we can pull together our neighbors and fight. But I just thought that, you look at most of these cases where Black land is taken away from the owners, it's all policy that's used to manipulate and to take advantage of the uninformed.
Well, yeah, I take your point there. With using eminent domain, one of the things that we have seen specifically with respect to minority, whether it's Black or Latino neighborhoods, is you will have individuals who are going back to the politics of it all, being informed, being on these city councils, being on these local councils that will allow you to see what's coming down the pike. So you can have these discussions so that when they do come in and say, okay, hey, Len, your property is an eyesore. You're not keeping up with what needs to be happening from a maintenance standpoint. And so we're going to fine you. And because you don't or may not have the resources to be able to do the repairs that are needed, those fines add up. And at a certain point, those fines become hundreds, become thousands, and you're behind the eight ball. You don't have the money to pay those fines. And that property is then, unfortunately, taken over by the city or taken over by predators who may be looking at the local ordinances or looking at the courthouse to see, okay, Lynn is behind in her property taxes. Lynn is behind in terms of fines here. So we're going to go in and we're going to buy this property. And all of a sudden now you become not necessarily a property owner, but you become a tenant. So we've seen that with respect to Santa Monica. We also saw that in some ways in the early 2000s with Katrina and New Orleans. I know you love New Orleans because I know you love beignets and all those wonderful delicacies that you will partake of when you're in New Orleans.
I don't love that humidity.
Well, okay. Yeah, but that's a part of New Orleans. How can you not?
Again, so I don't love New Orleans because I can't deal with the humidity.
Okay, but you like the food.
I like the food, but I don't like the heat.
You can't have the heat without the food.
But I don't want the heat.
You can't have the food without the heat. The heat makes the food.
Okay, well, then I like New Orleans. I don't love it.
Okay. All right. So, by the way, for those who are celebrating Mardi Gras, happy Mardi Gras to you at this particular point because we're in Mardi Gras season in New Orleans. But with Katrina, and I was in New Orleans. Do you say New Orleans or New Orleans?
New Orleans.
I see, and I pronounce it
New Orleans. That's what I say, New Orleans. I call it New Orleans. New Orleans, that's what I say. I had to make it natural. New Orleans. I'm going down to New Orleans.
Nolens. So I was there 2004, it was 2003, 2004, and spent a lot of time in the city of New Orleans during that time. The city obviously has such a vibrant history, and I'm not one that would hang out on Bourbon Street. I typically like to hang out on Frenchman's with the locals. Going to New Orleans, pre-Katrina, and then post-Katrina literally was like night and day. It was a ghost town. I think I was there a couple months after Katrina hit because we were doing some type of conference. And I remember staying at the Marriott, which is right on Canal Street. It was almost like a ghost town. And you go through the neighborhoods and one thing about trauma is individuals love trauma porn. And New Orleans used to have these tours, the Katrina tours, and they may still have it. Yeah, it was literally called the Katrina tour.
That is horrible.
So you would go on this tour and it would tour you around the neighborhoods of what it is that Katrina had done with respect to the damage. And you could see where they had the X marked on some of the properties and, the numbers, which would tell you whether or not they found a body or not.
Oh my God.
And
that is absolutely horrible.
Yes.
I love ghost tours, but I don't love that.
So going on that tour in New Orleans, you could see the impact of how Katrina damaged the lower Ninth Ward, other wards that were predominantly African American, and then you go up to the Garden District, where the Peyton Mannings of the world live, and you see these nice French style homes, and none of them were touched. And so you have this thing about why is it that some communities were destroyed and some were preserved? And part of it is because of how the levees were built. And I don't know if you saw this documentary about, I think it was called When the Levees Broke or something like that. It was about Katrina, and it was about the levees. And it was about the fact that they knew that if certain storms happened at a certain magnitude, that it would breach the levees, and those levees would then flood those neighborhoods that were lower income. So when you think about the wealth and the loss of wealth with respect to the Black families that were impacted, that never went back or couldn't go back, or if they went back, they would have to rebuild, and it would cost them thousands to rebuild.
That's because they valued that property before Katrina. So if they said, you know what, this property was worth $40,000, so we're just going to give you $40,000, and it's going to cost $250,000 to rebuild. Well, it looks like you just lost it, and the Garden District has expanded. Okay, bye.
So you're saying that in some ways redlining happened, where the banks came in and they undervalued African American or brown neighborhoods, and if you were Len and you had a house that was worth $100,000, you thought, but it would cost you $25,000 to repair it, then you would not have been able to do all the repairs that you needed to do in order to be able to live in that house.
Yeah.
And so in a case like that, what do? You just leave the house?
No. Okay, so you know, when we were talking about eminent domain, one of the things that I think that would be helpful in this, I'm just going to go back, if you don't mind if I circle back. This is something that Charlie Lewis had talked about. That would be like the creating those LLCs. And when Big Mama or whomever passes that along, a lot of times people can't pay the property taxes or that maintenance. Putting money into an LLC every month, the family members put in, I don't know, $50 or something. I don't know, something that they could reasonably afford, so that when maintenance comes or property tax, they can fix it up. There's not this huge bill, but if you put it in every month, then hopefully that keeps the ownership there. So that's for that Santa Monica. But then I'm thinking about like with Katrina and that scenario we just talked about. If just because they said it's worth $40,000, same with me doing my property tax, I just get an independent property appraisal. But that for people in those neighborhoods, it's going to cost money. So that's another reason and another scenario where the neighbors have to come together. It's not just I'm going out and I'm getting a property appraisal. I need the collective to come together, and we're going to get this appraised by an independent firm that's not from New Orleans, because as much as those beignets are hot, corruption and the morality, it's also hot.
Well, I take your point there. And I do think that from a political standpoint, when you think about the banking system and the real estate industry and things of that sort, we would not be being honest with ourselves if we thought that those individuals came in at a lot of times with our best interests at heart. So I take your point there.
They didn't come in with their best interests at heart. And I mean, the president at the time didn't even come in. He just did a flyover. Ooh, that looks bad.
It was, that's when Bush 43 did lose he lost the plot when he did that and he flew over New Orleans. I think because he was doing fine in the public side.
Why is he doing fine, John?
With a lot of the public, he was doing fine.
With Republicans, okay, fine.
But when he flew over Katrina, it was like, hey, you guys look bad down there. Huh?
It looks terrible. Pull it up a little bit. Okay, thank you.
That was the oh shit moment where it was like, you considered yourself a compassionate conservative. You weren't showing a lot of compassion there. And so from that standpoint, it wasn't his finest moment. Speaking of which, he got a standing ovation at a game last night. I think it was SMU playing Notre Dame, and he and Barbara went to a basketball game and got a standing ovation.
It's like when you dated someone.
Hold on.
God, you're terrible, you're whatever. Then you get with Mr. from The Color Purple, and you're like, you know what? You weren't so bad, Harper.
So you say that we're missing Bush 43 right now with everything that's going on with the shit show?
In retrospect, compared to what we have, you weren't so bad.
Okay.
Sure, you flew over Katrina. Sure, you had some fake weapons of mass destruction, but was it really that bad in
Hold on.
comparison?
I don't blame him for the mass destruction because the man tried to kill his daddy. So if a man tried to kill my daddy, I may have to come up with something to go in and say, you know what, we're going to chase you to the ends of the earth to be able to get you now. That said, I agree with you that in retrospect, we thought Bush 43 was bad. God said, you
want to see bad? It's like a black baby boomer mama. You want to cry? I'm going to give you something to cry about. Okay, you already did. That's why I'm crying.
So back to New Orleans. With New Orleans, the thing that bothers me to this day is because you think about Houston was impacted, Atlanta was impacted, Memphis was impacted. The term I want to use is not the right term, and I know I'm going to offend someone when I say it because I've heard people use it before and I bristled. They called them the New Orleans refugees, and they weren't refugees. They were citizens that came because their homes had been destroyed by a natural disaster. But a lot of those families were never to go back to New Orleans. A lot of those families still to this day are still in Houston, Atlanta, Dallas, or whatever. And so you think about the individuals that were impacted. New Orleans used to be a predominantly, and it still is, but it had a large African-American population. It's less so today because you did not have those individuals go back. And one of the things that bothers me is the extraction of the wealth that was lost in the very New Orleans. It's always been like a dirty, gritty town. It was never the sexiest city. Yeah, it always had that dirt under the fingernail type feel to it. And that's what made it great with respect to the culture and the food and the people. But when you extract that, you sort of lose what makes New Orleans, New Orleans. And so we have, in some ways, government incompetence with respect to Katrina happening that displaced and creates the unfair extraction of wealth. In Santa Monica, we had the policies that happened. And then I want to talk about the great state of South Carolina.
Before we transition over to Tim Scott's state, let's talk, you know what, I'm with you with the New Orleans refugee. I mean, New Orleans displays, New Orleans survivor. There's so many other things that are less charged. So let's leave it there, and then you can transfer over or pivot over to Tim Scott and your great state.
Great state of South Carolina. The great, great, great state of South Carolina. Obviously, I am biased because I am from the great state of South Carolina, but I will, and I wanted to use South Carolina and specifically Charleston and Gullah Geechee community with New Orleans because they're so intertwined. And I've had multiple conversations with multiple people that I will say Charleston has better food than New Orleans. And when I say that, people look at me like I have two heads. And I said, no, we'll have that argument day in and day out. Yeah, you know, with respect to cuisine, the Gullah Geechee, Charleston, the Black community traditionally came through that seaport. And what has happened with respect to Heirs property in the state of South Carolina is if you had Lynn's people come over 1693 and Lynn worked the land, or her people worked the land, because you would have been a house person, you obviously hate being in the sun.
Oh, I would have been combing Becky's hair. Like, I can't do this heat. No, that's not for, I'm not for that. I comb hair and occasionally dust. Like, that's what I do.
Occasionally dust.
Occasionally. I can't be doing that all day. It's hot. So no.
Okay. So if you are an individual's family and your family owned land, we did not, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, have the land lease or the land deed to say that when Lynn's ancestors passed away, that property was inherited by Lynn and her people. And so it became what is known as Heirs property. Now, what happened is, or what has been happening is, you see a lot of these, I call them predatory developers that will come in and they will say, there are four of you. There's Lynn and her three siblings, right? All of you have 25. They will find the weakest link of you who is saying, okay, I have no desire to go back to Charleston. I have no desire to live there permanently. And I'm okay with selling my 25%. They will get that person's 25%. And then they will take the rest of you to court because you can't legally prove that this is your property. And they will go and get a court order to put the entire piece of land, because they have that partition, they can put the entire piece of land up for auction. And now, because it's in the legal realm and they can bid on it, they can outbid you. And you've lost your land based on the fact that you have a brother or sister who is incompetent and so they're 25%.
Well, I don't know if they're incompetent. They just like to be in that area like you, 48 hours and I'm out of here. And I get that because I feel the exact same way when I cross the Red River. But I also, like we've already talked about this, my grandparents they had so much land in Oklahoma, like all over the place. Like for our farm, my grandfather's like, it has to stay in the family. And I'm just going to just touch on what Charlie Lewis said. I thought this was so interesting. And our family's actually having these conversations now because we were like, whoa, he's right that it needs to stay bloodline family. I'm sorry. I know some of my cousins are going to be like, their wives like, I hate that whore. But it has to stay in the family. And I think that one of the things that is important is having a family land agreement. That if you're like something like a family land agreement, another LLC, and saying that if you decide to sell, the family has the first opportunity to buy. Right, so you can't sell outside of the family. You can sell to another cousin, you can sell to whatever, but you can't sell outside the family. And then putting those in the stipulation when you're inheriting or giving it to other people. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm just saying that there has to be some type of protection because there are people that are like, I never, or there could, that property could be associated with trauma for them. And they're like, I don't want anything to do with this house. I mean, those switches that I got on my behind hurt and I don't ever want to think about it again. Something like that. And there just has to be a way for the family to keep that land because you're right. There are predators out there. They're just like, who's the weakest one? Who lives in Atlanta and has a different life and acts like he never, ever, ever heard of Dillon, South Carolina? Oh, that one.
First of all, I'm offended that you would use the great state.
John, those were hypotheticals. I wasn't saying anyone's name. That's just a hypothetical scenario. I'm sorry if you felt triggered by that, but I'm just using hypotheticals.
Okay, so let me use the hypothetical here. I agree with you with respect to systems that are in place that will allow stuff like that not to happen. And I think a part of what we need to do better as a culture, and the politics is going to be what the politics is. But when you think about how it is that individuals are able to use the political apparatus to then shoehorn into taboo areas or in areas where the culture may be at fault, then that's where I agree with you. So you're speaking more to we got to look at it from a legal standpoint and say, okay, it's okay that Big Mama had this house or Lynn had this house, and Lynn's intentions were that everyone would sort of
cares
figure it
about
out.
Lynn's intentions. If you don't have documentation with Lynn's signature on it, I don't care about her intention.
Okay, so that speaks to the cultural aspect and the taboo of what's in the community, because one of the things that I grew up with, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of our listeners grew up with, is in a lot of families, you did not talk about who owned what in money. You did not talk about property. That was someone else's business. That was adult business.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that was a business to be discussed by, you did not know what your mom and daddy owned. You did not know in detail where the deeds were, where the life insurance policies were, where the passwords and passcodes were to certain things. Because if I give Lynn my passcode to my bank account, I may wake up one day and be missing $5,000.
I mean, you totally would.
Lynn's got a drug problem.
No, you know what though, John? I think it's twofold. Okay. I think it's twofold. I think that's one scenario, but I can tell you, like with our family, my mom is the only child. And my grandmother always wanted to take care of my mom into her adulthood. I'm taking care of you. So I was asking her about this. I said, Mom, do you think it was mother or was it you? Because once my grandmother transitioned, my mom had to go through probate. She had to find all this stuff. And I was like, my grandmother was a great businesswoman. And she was also very protective. And she would share something. And my mom said, it was me. I didn't want to hear it. And I asked her that because that's me. Like just having these conversations that we've been having over the last couple or 3 times has been extremely emotionally triggering for me. I don't like thinking about this. I don't like thinking about any of this, even though people are like, well, that's, you have to think about it, especially as the oldest, that you're going to have to navigate through this. I don't like thinking about any of it. I don't like thinking about wills. I don't want to think about my mom and dad not being here, because when they're not here, I'm going to the mental hospital. I'm not going to buck up. I'm not going to be an adult. I'm going to the mental hospital and start building bird cages or bird houses or whatever I'm doing. I know this because I don't want to think of a world where I'm not in it with them. Even though it's part of life, I don't like thinking about it. So even if you do have a matriarch or a patriarch that are like, I want to share this with you, sometimes it's the recipient that is reluctant to get that information. And so that causes problems.
But here's the problem, because you hit on a couple of things. A lot of times we do have information deficit with respect to who owns what, where are the different pieces. And I get it. You have a mother or a father that will pass away, or a family member that will pass away. And let's say that they are on the deed to the house, right? And there's a mortgage on the house. If that information is not shared, then you don't know, A, who you need to pay the mortgage to, B, when the taxes are due. And now you have taxes that are not being paid. You have a mortgage that's not been taken care of. And then you get a default notice in 60 days. And now you got to find a different place to live.
And there's a real distinct difference and a reality between people that are emotional and people that are logical, right? And so if you're logical, you're a doer, you're going to have that file folder of everything that you need, passwords, deeds, everything. And you're going to keep that in a file folder. Like my mom has that. She's the keeper of information. I know where it is. She has my birth certificate. She has every kid's birth certificate. But I am an emotional person and I want to live in my fantasy world. I know that as the oldest, when something does happen, I will rally. I will. Yes, I will. I always do. But I'm an emotional person and I don't like sitting with that. I like to live in, like I said, my fantasy world. But we understand that. But I think that you do have to acknowledge the fact that not everybody feels comfortable just doing that. It's not because they don't want to know somebody's business, it's because they're emotional.
I get it. That said, it is a part of life. And it is something that we have to be cognizant of and be protective of.
You mentioned like this person that says they're in a better place. The first person that says that to me about my mom and dad is getting punched in the kidney. I'm letting you know right now.
So here's the flip side of that. If you don't have something in place, then you have no option, because the state will have something in place.
Of course, and you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that just acknowledging where people are, but you do have to do that, because your memories and what you heard grandma or big mama or mother say, that doesn't hold up in a court of law. And like I said, for me, I will rally, but you do have to acknowledge the fact that everybody can't live in that state. We just know that people are counting on either that information being displaced, not being kept up, or whatever it is. And so I'm with you, John. I 100% agree with you that you do have to have a digital file folder or a physical file folder. Sometimes I just don't want to talk about this digital or physical file folder.
You mentioned something that Charlie Lewis talked about, and I want to pull on that strand a little bit, because if you're in a family where there are multiple siblings and something happens, and if you don't have a will or if you don't have documentation in place, then that can be split 33 if there are 3 of you, or if there are 4 of you, 25. All of you may not be in the same financial boat. One of you may be financially well off. Now, I was having this conversation with my men's group, and one of the things that came up in the conversation was he realized that his sons were not equal. He realized that one was going to need a little bit more financial support than the other. And so the way that he had it structured was, because this son is going to need more financial support, he may get 60% of the assets and the other may get 40%, but structured in a way that he's not getting 60% of the assets on the day that I die. It's going to be structured in a way that he may get a percentage at 40, another percentage at 45, another percentage at 50. So there are different ways that you can structure that to take care of your family members who may have different needs.
And I totally get that. Obviously, I get that, especially for me, because for my youngest son, he's going to have to be he's going to have to manage his older brother's finances, right? And so all life insurance things that we have for the oldest, the youngest is going to have to manage that. So the oldest is not in a space where he can do that. I get that, but if you have two people that maybe don't have extenuating needs, I don't know, I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit because you're kind of penalizing the sibling that had a different choice. And so what I'm saying is that obviously there are times where there's extenuating situations where someone may suffer from something physical, mental, psychological, whatever. And so we're obviously not going to disadvantage them because of that. But if you had two siblings, they had the same opportunities in life. One chose to, I don't know, hustle at 50, and I'm still, hey man, I got this deal. All I need is $20. And then you have the other one that's like, I went off to law school, I struggled, it was hard, I did it. But both of them had the opportunity to go to law school or go to get a profession. The other one just likes to, hey man. Why should that one that chose the different path be penalized? Because you're enabling the other one. I don't get it. Yes.
And I'm going to say something that's probably going to be controversial. I love both of my kids, but I know that there's one that if I put $100,000 in front of her, she's going to be responsible. If I put $100,000 in front of the boy, he's probably going to go out and buy a freaking Lamborghini.
But that's his. If you give them,
but it's my hold on. I can decide.
Do whatever you want to do. For me, you would not be my partner because we would have been divorced probably at 30 minutes in if we got that far. But I'm just saying.
So you're saying that regardless of the personality of the child, you believe that you should give them both the same?
I do. If they're not responsible, if you're saying that we want to keep property in the family and you have more than one that's more responsible, then that person would be like the executor or make decisions about whether I'm getting taken off life support or something. Okay, fine. You could be that. But in terms of leaving wealth to them, they're getting it equally. If one decides they want to go buy a Lamborghini and the other one decides they want to do investment strategy, you're not getting any more. Let me just say
Hold on.
No, I don't want to say
hold on.
I have a problem with people putting stipulations on their love. You are both my children. And so whether I agree with your choices in life or not, I love you unconditionally. I like you for different reasons.
Hold on. No, that's not the same. You're conflating my love for them and saying,
you don't get to choose how they live their life. You don't get to choose that. You can't say,
it's my money.
I'm going to give you more. And because you want to buy a Lamborghini, I'm giving you less. Now, again, we would have been married for, now it's down to 10 minutes. I want an annulment from this man.
It's my
money.
Horrible.
He is horrible. Judge, he's horrible.
I can decide how.
You can do whatever you want to. You can
okay, so let me ask you
You know what? My favorite phrase for you: do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it is your favorite phrase.
And you know what that means.
Yes. So let me ask you this: what if there are kids involved?
If there are kids involved?
Yes. What if they're grandkids?
Oh my God, I can't take you. It's like the person that doesn't have any children because they had a different life. Now all of a sudden they're the caregiver. They have to do everything because the other one has kids. That was your choice.
So let me ask you this. So if you have 3 kids, right? And let's say that you have 2 that are responsible.
In your definition of responsible.
Okay, in my definition of responsible. You have 1 that's not responsible, but all 3 of them have kids. So you have 3 sets of grandkids. Is your responsibility to the kids or the grandkids? Or can you structure it in a way that you are also, follow me here, that you're also giving a third to each of the kids, but stipulating on the one that's not responsible as an adult that the grandkids.
You are trash. I'm just going to say that. And I don't care if anybody.
How's that
you are literally trash. With you and your Geppetto lifestyle. You people jump around. When I say jump, you say how high, and that's going to be the money. No. You know what? It's down to 5. Don't even ask me to marry you because the answer, black man, is no. You are trash.
So you would have a problem protecting the grandkids.
This is the problem I have, is that you want people to be a version of what you want them to be instead of letting them chart their own course. But because they are doing something that you don't like, they get penalized. If they're not out there committing crimes and whatever, they just made a different choice in life. That doesn't mean it's a bad choice. It just wasn't Johnny's choice.
All right. Well, I take your point.
Man, you just got me all hot, and that's why I have on this beach clothes. I knew that you were going to do something.
Hold on. I'm just saying that at some particular point, you got to protect the legacy.
Hey, what's the legacy? The legacy is the property. If you've got cash money and you're giving it out, what do you protect? You're dead. Who cares what they do with it? And you know what I would love to happen in this movie that I've created in my head is if the daughter, she was just waiting for your black ass to die, and then she went out and she made it rain. I would love that.
Made it rain?
Yeah. He just went out like, I'm making it rain. She's got just male strippers all over the place. That would be great.
That would be interesting. So the other part that you brought up.
I just don't like you. Sorry. I literally want to end this podcast right now because I fundamentally don't like you.
That is so harsh.
I mean, I just don't. I don't even want to finish because I don't like you. You're a person that I fundamentally don't like.
That's harsh. So the other aspect of this, and you brought this up, Charlie had mentioned, and you'd mentioned earlier, that if there are stipulations in place prior to certain things happening, where you do have that legal documentation that says if something happens with this property, we need to have set aside a subset of money to be able to, even if the house is paid for, to be able to do the maintenance on that. I think that's important, in a situation where you are taking care of the property and you aren't having the property being foreclosed on. What say you about that?
That's a good idea. Like I said, it could be a nominal sum that you're putting in. It's just like, for me, I do my 3 months of no shopping because that's my cushion to pay for maintenance that's going to come up on the car, the house, the whatever. It just depends on how the siblings are, the family is, but I think that it's important. You should just put in like $50 a month. I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like, oh, that's not a lot of money because I don't know everybody's financial situation, but putting in what you can each month so that it doesn't become this big, huge bill when something happens. Something is going to happen because something happens. But if you've planned for it and then you're just putting that money in, then you pay from that fund.
Yeah. And so what you just said there is the key. You plan for it, but you plan for it by talking about it. So If you don't talk, you don't plan.
Yeah.
And when you plan, then you're able to put together or put forth that defensive mechanism that allows you to be able to address some of these unforeseen issues that come down, like having a daughter that may go out and make it rain. That said, I don't know if it was you that told me or I told you. It was probably me that told you because I don't think you watch documentaries. Do you remember how we started talking about the silver dollar?
I told you, actually. I'm the one that told you about that documentary.
Okay. So for those that are not familiar with the silver dollar road and the privacy tax, it's a documentary that came out, I believe 3 or 4 years ago. It's during COVID, and it was in the great state of North Carolina. It's about if we're keeping information to ourselves as a culture and individuals who are coming in mining our culture for stories to be told. The Silver Dollar Road documentary is a prime example of the things that we've been talking about today. You had these families, or you had this one family, or these sets of families, and a part of them or subset of them sold their property, their piece of property, to a developer. And you had others that were living on this property, and it was heirs property. They did not have the legal documentation in place to prove that the property was theirs. You had a subset of them that were arrested and spent, I believe, 6 or 7 years in jail for trespassing on property that their family had owned for generations. I remember watching this and getting physically upset about it. Thank you for putting it on my radar. Do you remember that documentary?
Yeah, I remember it. Actually, we watched it, my mom and my youngest son and I watched it because we were telling him about his great-grandfather and the farm. And so he said, that's my legacy. And I said, it is your legacy. And that film helped reinforce the message that we were trying to convey to him. I was so angry because of the manipulation of the government and how they exploited.
But it wasn't the government, was it? It was the developers that came in.
Oh, that's true. It was the developers. But it's always, you talk about family members and their motivations. There's always someone that's like, well, I just want to get my $500. Wow, here's $500, and please don't come to the barbecue. Bye. But somebody and again, I'm not trying to minimize people's financial situation. I'm not. I'm just saying that can you please go to the family first before you decide to sell something in a poker game?
I can't remember the weak link in the family that decided that they were going to sell, and you had the developers come in and being honest, it was a culture issue in terms of black and white. You had a lot of the families that came in and purchased property were white. The Reals family was black. And so it was their ancestral land that was sold. And you had these wonderful houses, beautiful houses that were being built on this land. And you had the Reals family that was not in a big, beautiful house, but they were renting now as opposed to land that they had owned. And so a part of that is talking about the fact that if we don't tell our stories, then someone else is going to come in and tell our stories for us.
Well, sometimes when people do sell it for $500, they don't look at the throughput, right? So it's not just that you lost control of the land. You do lose control of the privacy, the peace, the story, the historical ancestral story. You lost all of that. But people don't think about that, especially if they do have bills that are due right now, or if they're hungry right now, or if they've got those children that need diapers right now. And I get that. I also get that there has to be real conversation with the families, especially because Big Mama gave it to the siblings, and she or your Big Daddy could put that in as stipulations that this can't be sold outside of this family.
But again, it comes back to having those conversations and those conversations leading to the planning that you talked about. I think about what it is that we are doing right now with YouTube, books, and things of that sort, and the intellectual property that's a part of that. And recently I had a good friend of mine transition. And I remember just this morning, I was looking through Facebook and looking at birthdays. And typically, and this is just me, this is the way that I process information, this is the way that I process loss. I mean this as no offense to anyone. If you are a friend of mine on Facebook and you transition, I typically remove you from my friend group.
I mean, and that, again, that's your personal journey.
Right. And the reason I do that is because my emotional space, if I see your avatar come up, that will have a direct impact on me.
Sure.
And
I can appreciate that.
And so I typically remove the avatar. This particular time, I did not remove his avatar. And for whatever reason, his birthday is in September. For whatever reason, I clicked on his avatar today. And in looking at the posts that are now on his timeline, they are posts of retrospectives of him and things that he had done in the music industry. And it got me to thinking about all the things that this guy was involved with respect to music, events, merchandise. And I'm like, what happens to all of that stuff? Monies that are being made with respect to the merchandising. That's going someplace.
Well, that's a very interesting question. Like if you have a Patreon, if you have podcasts, that's a very fascinating question. I've never considered that.
Yeah. And so, when if we have a YouTube page and something happens, monies that are earned go someplace. If you're not sharing that information with someone or documenting that someplace, your family has no idea that that's there. And that revenue remains with Jeff Bezos and Amazon or Google. And just think about all the monies that are orphaned because individuals either aren't aware of it, aren't claiming it with respect to IP.
That made me think about, and you probably are aware of this, that there's unclaimed property. Mm-hmm. And so you can go in and search your name in different places and they can say, hey, there's unclaimed property in Oklahoma under the same, and then you can petition to get it. I don't know if anything exists like that for a digital. Actually,
it is.
It does? It's called that's interesting.
Digital Asset Memorandum.
Interesting.
Digital Asset Memorandum. And what that does is, whether it's platforms like Google, Meta, YouTube, obviously it's Google, any SaaS business that you may have, or any equity that you may have in a brand, you can create a document that houses all of that stuff. And so that, again, when you're earning revenue or when your estate earns revenue, that's who owns it.
So did they go to, do you file it on the courts, or what do you do with that? I've just never heard of this before.
I do not know the specifics of that, but we can have a conversation with legal representation who is in the IP space, and they can walk us through that, which I think would be a great person to have as a part of this discussion.
When are we going to be finished with these discussions? Because again, they're triggering me. When do we get to the fun part?
So as always with this, we have a call to action. So we've given you the roadmap in terms of making certain that you're having those difficult conversations about property. And we've given examples of Santa Monica. We've given examples of of Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans, where in a lot of ways the politics has impacted how it is that Black folks have been able to either retain, lose equity, or lose monetary assets. And then we talked about, from a cultural standpoint, how we have to get Lynn to have more conversations with her siblings and with her people to let them know, okay, this is what I have. This is where you can find certain things. And should something happen to me, God forbid, these are the things that you need to be cognizant of and aware of. And so from that standpoint, we have to do better as a culture to not be so closed off and be able to have those conversations, not only with family members, but with other individuals in our space, to be able to share the information that we need to. Because if we don't do that, then again, our stories, as we've seen with Silver Dollar Road and other things, can be then mined by other individuals for entertainment. And so all three of those play together. So here's what we need to move going forward. We need to set up what we call an ITP defense framework. That is the Take Your Point defense framework. And as a part of that, we want you to have a couple of things. We call that the Big Five. So, Ms. Lynn, we want you to get a revocable living trust. Okay?
You want me to get a what?
Revocable living trust. If you have been following the shit show and what he is doing with all of his assets, right? He's placed all of his assets in a revocable living trust. And he's saying that, hey, this money that's being made on Bitcoin and everything else with Uday and Qusay, Trump are going out and doing certain things. Yes, I took the Uday and Qusay from Hassan. That was a call back to Bush. So that went over your head.
Man, it went so far over my head. I'm like, what you talking about, Willis?
You don't remember Uday and Qusay?
No.
Hussein? The two boys? Google it.
I won't be doing that.
You had Saddam and you had Uday and Qusay. So I call Uday and Qusay Trump, Eric, and the other one, the one with the drug problem.
Donald J.
Yeah, yes, I call them Uday and Qusay. Okay, so Uday.
It takes this long to explain your joke, man. No.
Hold on. So he's saying that Uday and Qusay control the trust, but he can revoke it at any particular point and still own it.
Because they didn't jump high enough. You're like, I don't like those clothes you had on at Easter. You're out. You just like, you don't remind me of the Donald Duck that has all the money, like, just sitting there with your money, like, okay, let's see what the kids are doing today.
No, have a revocable trust, okay? Second, you want to make sure that, as you talked about, you have that LLC where you're wrapping all of your assets within that LLC, and that's going to protect you from liability and things of that sort. And then there's this thing called a pour over will, and that's a catch-all for all of those wonderful things that Miss Lynn has forgotten about. The assets that you have, whether it's your $2,000 in cosmetics or your clothing that you just found with the tags on it that you haven't worn, that you've had for 3 years, and you go, oh, where did I get this from? You can have all of that stuff in the pour over will that, again, takes care of all the assets that you forgot about. And then the other thing that's important is you want to have a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy. And that's making certain that should something happen and you're incapacitated or not able to make decisions by yourself or for yourself, you empower someone else to make those decisions for you. And then lastly, we talked about this in conclusion of the entertainment portion, the digital asset memo or the memorandum. And that's for all of your logins for your intellectual property. So having those big five being the revocable living trust, the LLC, the pourable will, the power of attorney and the healthcare proxy, and then the digital asset memo. You have those things in place. That should protect you from a lot of the stuff that can be coming down the pike. What say you about that?
I think that's a great plan, and as uncomfortable as these conversations have been, I've taken a lot away from it, and I know there are things that I definitely need to get in order this year. With the youngest one turning 21, he will be in a position where he also has to take on this. Thank goodness he's not like me, and he knows he's very responsible and he's okay with these conversations. It's just me that's going to the mental hospital. Take it, honey.
Look, I get it. These conversations are difficult, and none of us like to think about our mortality. And as you are fortunate enough to get older, you understand that there was this comedian. He was talking about once you hit the 50s, you're in the 50s club. And it's not the age that you look around and then seeing their parents or seeing their friends transition.
Yeah, and so I think that's the challenge, is like, in my head, I'm still 25.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
and I mean, and I act like I'm a 15-year-old boy, but whatever, that's not the point. And so, I wonder if it's part of our generation that for our generation, we had this sense of immortality and that we lived our life like we were the movie Fame. We're going to live forever. Hey, don't you remember my name? Like we just had this sense of we can do anything. And then when we looked at people in their when we were like 19 or 20, they looked quite like they were getting ready to move on to the next one. Sally O'Malley, 50. Like, I don't know anybody that's Sally O'Malley out here.
50 is the new 20.
It totally is. It's just like, and I think that it's for a lot of people in my friend group, it's shocking that we are faced with this and like, well, no, I'm still cool. I'm still whatever. And it's my kids say, girl, I don't think you were ever cool.
I take your point. I think that it can be shocking. And one of the reasons that I don't spend a lot of time on regular Facebook is because it's like every other post is the announcement of someone's transition. And I'm like, I can only take so much because I have to protect my headspace. And so we talked today about the silver tsunami. And even though Miss Lynn colors her hair, under her hair is silver.
Excuse me? Dude, you've got a lot. You know what, John? I've really had enough of you today.
So as a part of the silver tsunami, there are conversations that we need to have. And as a part of the Power and Ownership series, this was a part of that. I get that some of these conversations can be difficult, but if we do the little things, it will save us a lot of work and save individuals a lot of work in the long run with respect to family. Thank you guys again for allowing Miss Lynn to go off the rails on whatever it is that she typically goes off the rails on. I know that in some of the comments, she is taking you to task and you've taken her to task about some of the beliefs that she has. That said, what are some of the comments that jumped out to you this week?
There have been so many. There's a lot of support for the new format. People are sharing their experiences, like navigating through property and having these conversations with their family. So if you haven't had an opportunity to go into the comments, like I said, those are the smart people. They're in the comments. There are a lot of subject matter experts, people that sat on city commissions that are adding their stories. I just feel like the community is getting richer and the conversations are deeper. And to facilitate that, people adding in their stories is just creating this really unique and really wonderful space for you to learn and grow and connect with people.
By the time you guys listen to this, we will officially have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And because we are looking to expand our footprint, we are launching I Take Your Point on Spotify. So for those of you who are not YouTube listeners and prefer to be audiophiles with respect to listening on the move or on the go, then you do have the ability now to watch and or listen to the program on Spotify. Miss Lynn, what do you have planned for this week?
A lot of nothing.
Okay. Well, you have on your beach outfit, so I was thinking you were going to the beach.
This isn't a beach outfit. This is a brunch outfit.
Okay. Well, you going to brunch today?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, have fun. Have fun. Brunch is always good.
What are you up to, sir?
I'm going to get a massage. Why does my massage have to be okay?
I don't know, because your massage is just a whole experience, and it's just like everything else in your life that it has to meet these standards and whatever expectations that you have. Instead of just going to get a massage, it has to be this person. They have to do this. I'm like, it's just exhausting.
You know what that is, right?
A bougie blackness that's
What is
annoying.
that like?
No, John, I don't think that people from Howard are like that. I think you're unique. I just think you are a very unique person.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
Okay, you can take it anywhere you want.
All right. Guys, thanks as always for taking the time to spend some time with us today. Hopefully, we have presented to you some things to think about and some conversations to have. Think about how it is that we are bettering ourselves as people, how we're making certain that our families have what they need. Remember, your call to action this week is very simple. Revocable trust, LLC, proof of will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, and digital asset memo. If you do those 5 things, you should be taken care of. While you're out and about this week, make the time to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take the time to do something nice for someone else. Until next time, we'll talk to you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening and spending your time with us on I Take Your Point. For more unfiltered conversations like this, click the link in the description. Huge thank you to our production team. We couldn't do this without you. Quick disclaimer, the views shared are those of the host and guest and are for informational purposes only, not professional advice. Keep building your own table, take care, and be well.